The academy playground was filled with light from two suns. Children of many alien races played together, their laughter echoing through the metallic halls. Some floated with wings, some had glowing eyes, and some moved with extra arms. It was a place where the young of the galaxy trained to become the leaders of tomorrow. In the middle of that playground stood a boy who looked very different. He had no wings, no glowing eyes, no extra arms. He was small, fragile and quiet. He was human. The other children often called him weak. They said humans were a useless species, only tolerated because the council allowed it. No one respected him and no one wanted to be his friend. A group of alien boys gathered around him. They were taller, stronger, and filled with cruel laughter. One of them pushed the human boy so hard that he fell to the ground. The others laughed loudly. "See? He cannot even stand properly," one shouted. Another added, "Humans are nothing, only toys for us." The human boy stayed silent, but his hands clenched tightly against the floor. The bullies circled him like hunters. They enjoyed his weakness, they enjoyed his silence. One of them kicked dust into his face, another slapped the back of his head. "Speak, little human," they mocked, "or are you too scared?" The boy raised his eyes, and for a moment there was something strange in them. It was faint, like a small light hidden in darkness. But the bullies did not notice. They only saw a boy on the ground, and they laughed harder. From the corner, an alien girl watched quietly. She had silver skin that reflected the sun's, and her eyes glowed softly like moons. She did not laugh. She did not join. Her heart felt heavy as she saw the human boy suffer. She whispered to herself, "Why do they hate him so much?" But she was afraid to speak up. If she defended him, she too would be mocked. So she only watched, her hands shaking slightly. The bullies grew bolder. One lifted the boy's shirt and laughed. "Look, no scales, no marks." "Nothing strong," he sneered. But then he stopped. His eyes widening for a second, he saw faint glowing lines across the boy's chest. They looked like fire under the skin, like hidden energy waiting to rise. He blinked and the lines faded. He shook his head, telling himself it was only imagination. He pushed the boy down again, harder this time. The boy hit the ground, his lip bleeding. The laughter returned, sharper, crueler. The girl gasped softly. She had seen the glow too. Her mind raced with old stories told in whispers. Stories of humans who once carried a power so dangerous that the council had forbidden it. Stories of a time when humans were not weak but feared. Could it be true? She thought. Was this boy hiding something the galaxy had tried to bury? The human boy pressed his hand against the bleeding lip. He tasted iron. He felt pain, but more than that, he felt something stirring inside. It was not anger alone. It was something deeper, older, like a voice whispering from far away. "They strike you because they do not know what you are," the voice said. "Endure until the time comes." The boy shook his head, trying to silence the thought, but the voice remained calm and steady. The bullies grew tired of waiting for him to react. "Stand, human," one ordered, shoving him upright. "Fight back." "If you dare," another shouted. The boy stood weakly, his legs shaking. He wanted to fight, he wanted to scream, but he remembered his mother's words. Never show them, never lose control, no matter what they do. So he stayed silent. He lowered his head, and the laughter grew once more. The girl felt her chest tighten. She wanted to step forward to stop them, but her fear chained her feet to the ground. She could only whisper to herself, "This is wrong. This is dangerous," for deep inside, she knew something none of the bullies understood. The more they struck the human boy, the closer they came to awakening what should never be awakened. As the suns dipped lower in the sky, the playground echoed with cruel laughter. The human child stood bruised and bleeding, but his eyes carried a faint glow that no one except the girl noticed. The bullies thought they had won. They thought the human was broken, but in truth, they had only opened the first crack in the seal of something ancient, something forbidden, something the galaxy feared and had tried to bury forever. And it was only the beginning. The next day, the academy playground looked the same. Children from many worlds ran, laughed, and shouted. But for one girl, nothing felt the same. She could not forget what she had seen. Her name was Lyra. She was not like the others who enjoyed cruelty. She had always watched from the edge, quiet and thoughtful. Her silver skin reflected the sun's. Her glowing eyes hid her fear. She was the silent witness, and yesterday, she had seen something that the others had missed. The human boy, broken and silent, had carried a secret when he was struck. His body had glowed, faint but real. It was not a trick of the light. It was something deeper, older, something forbidden. Lyra sat alone under the metal trees of the academy garden. The whispers of old stories filled her mind. She remembered her grandfather telling her tales before he died. Tales of humans not weak, but powerful beyond measure. Once long ago, humans were feared in the galaxy. They carried a power inside their very blood, a power that could not be controlled. A power that the Galactic Council swore must never rise again. Her grandfather had said, "The galaxy will laugh at humans, call them weak, but that is by design. They want the young to forget the truth. They want the children to believe the lie. Because the day a human awakens, the stars themselves will tremble." Lyra's hands shook as she remembered those words. Could the boy she had seen, the one mocked and beaten, be the seed of that terrible truth? Her heart told her yes. Her fear told her to stay silent. She looked across the playground. The human boy sat in the shadows near the wall, his lips still swollen, his arm wrapped in cloth. No one went near him. No one offered kindness. He sat alone, staring at the ground. But Lyra noticed his fingers moving, drawing lines in the dust. Strange patterns, circles, and symbols. She could not understand them, but they felt ancient. They looked like the marks she had seen glowing on his chest. Lyra's throat went dry. Was he even aware of what he was doing, or was something inside him guiding his hand? The bullies from yesterday saw him too. They laughed from across the yard. "Look at the little human scribbling like a lost animal," one sneered. Another added, "He cannot even write in proper script. Useless creature," the others laughed. But none of them dared to come closer today. Something about the boy unsettled them. Though they would never admit it, Lyra rose slowly. Her steps were small, careful. She wanted to speak to him, but fear chained her voice. What if he turned his strange glow on her? What if the stories were true and she awakened a monster? But another part of her whispered, "If you stay silent, you will never know the truth." She walked closer. The boy looked up at her with tired eyes. They were not the eyes of a child, they were old, ancient, like someone who had carried pain for many lifetimes. Her heart skipped a beat. She forced a small smile, though her lips trembled. You were hurt yesterday," she said softly. The boy said nothing. He simply stared, his silence heavy like stone. Then he whispered, almost too quiet to hear, "They think I am weak." His voice was hoarse, his tone empty. "But they do not understand what weakness means." Lyra's breath caught. His words felt sharp like hidden blades. She wanted to ask what he meant, but her courage failed. Before she could speak again, the academy bell rang. Children scattered. The playground emptied. But Lyra's mind was filled with questions. Who was this boy really? And what was the secret he carried inside his blood? That night, as darkness fell over the academy towers, Lyra lay awake in her chamber. Her glowing eyes stared at the ceiling. But all she saw were the glowing lines under the boy's skin. She thought of the bullies, their cruel laughter, their blind arrogance. They had no idea what they were playing with. They thought the human was nothing. But they were wrong, Lyra whispered to herself. If they keep striking him, if they keep pushing him, one day the seal will break. Far across the academy, in his lonely room, the human boy also lay awake. He could hear the whispers again, ancient and steady. They strike you for fun, but they do not know what you carry. They laugh at you, but they do not see the chains we left behind. Endure, child of earth, for when the seal shatters, you will not only rise, you will burn. The boy closed his eyes. His fists clenched under the blanket. He did not want this voice, he did not want this power, but he could feel it growing stronger every time they struck him. Like a fire waiting for the spark, and he feared the day when that spark would come. In the silence of the night, two children lay awake in different rooms, one a silent witness filled with fear and questions, the other a human child burdened with a forbidden secret. Neither of them knew that the playground cruelty was only the beginning. The galaxy itself would soon learn the price of striking a human child for fun. The academy lights dimmed as night covered the colony world. Most children slept peacefully, dreaming of tomorrow's lessons and games. But one child could not sleep. The human boy lay awake, staring at the ceiling of his small room. His body ached from the beatings, his lip was still bruised. But the pain was not what kept him awake, it was the voice. It had begun as a whisper the day he was struck. At first he thought it was his imagination, the sound of his own mind breaking under cruelty. But now he knew it was not. The whisper was too clear, too ancient, too heavy. It spoke words he did not understand. In a language older than the academy, older than the galaxy itself, and somehow he understood it. You are not weak. Child of Earth, the voice said. They laugh because they do not remember, but we remember. The boy covered his ears, but the voice was inside. Not outside, he whispered. Who are you? Silence followed, long and deep. Then the answer came. We are the ancients. The ones who slept in your blood, waiting for the day you are struck. The boy's breath shook. He pressed his hands against his chest where he had seen the glowing lines. Was this the source? Were the whispers coming from inside his very skin? The voice returned, calm and endless. Long ago, humans were not the weakest, we were the fire that burned the stars. We were the storm that broke empires. But the galaxy feared us. They feared what we could become, so they buried us, chained us. Forced you to forget? The boy squeezed his eyes shut. He wanted to forget. He wanted the voice to stop. But the whisper only grew stronger. Every strike, every insult, every drop of blood is a key. They are unlocking us without knowing. You cannot stop it. Child, the seal is breaking. Far across the academy, in another tower, Lyra lay awake too. She could not stop thinking about the boy, his silence, his strange glow. His words, they do not understand what weakness means, it haunted her. She turned in her bed, trying to silence the thoughts, but deep inside, she felt the same fear her grandfather had warned her about. The day a human awakens, the stars themselves will tremble. The next morning, the academy halls buzzed with noise. Students moved in groups, talking loudly, but whispers followed the human boy wherever he walked. The bullies laughed and shouted, but their eyes held unease. They remembered the flicker of light. The strange energy, none of them admitted it. But they were afraid. Only Lyra watched closely, silent and thoughtful. In class, the boy sat alone, while others practiced energy control or lifted objects with alien powers. He stayed still, his hands clenched, his eyes low. The teacher looked at him with cold disapproval. Humans, the teacher said, should be grateful they are even allowed to learn here. The class laughed. The boy lowered his head, but inside the whisper stirred. Do not bow, child of Earth, they mock what they fear. The boy's heart pounded. He wanted to shout, to rise, to show them what burned inside him. But his mother's voice echoed in his memory. Never show them, never lose control. That evening, he returned to his small room. He sat in silence, staring at his hands. He whispered, Why me? Why are you inside me? The answer came slowly, like thunder rolling across endless skies. Because you are struck. Because you are broken, and in brokenness, we awaken. We were always there, waiting in the shadows of your blood. We are the memory of Earth. The weapon they tried to erase. The boy's heart filled with dread. He did not want to be a weapon. He only wanted to be left alone. He clenched his fists and shouted, Leave me alone. But the voice did not fade. It laughed softly, like fire crackling. We cannot leave, we are you, and you are us. Meanwhile, Lyra passed by his door. She heard the faint sound of his voice. The tremble in his words. She stopped, her glowing eyes wide with worry. She almost knocked, almost asked if he was all right. But fear pulled her back. She whispered, If the stories are true, then I must not interfere. Yet her heart told her the opposite. The boy was alone, and she was the only one who had seen the truth. That night the human boy dreamed in his dream. He stood on an endless battlefield of ash. The stars above burned red. The ground cracked with fire, and everywhere, broken armies of alien races lay scattered. He walked through the silence, his small footsteps echoing. Then he saw them, figures of light, tall and terrible, with human faces. Their eyes blazed like suns. Their voices thundered, We are the ancients, and you are our vessel. The boy trembled. I don't want this. But the figures only raised their hands. The battlefield shook, fire roared, and their voices became one. The galaxy struck you for fun, child of Earth, and in their cruelty they have awakened us. The boy woke with a scream, sweat on his forehead. The whisper was no longer faint. It was a song of fire in his blood, and for the first time, he feared himself more than the bullies. The suns of the colony world rose again, bathing the academy towers in golden light. Children gathered in the playground as always, their laughter sharp, their voices filling the air. But something felt different. The air was heavy, almost weighting, as if the world itself knew a secret was about to break. The human boy walked slowly across the yard. His steps were tired, his body still weak from the wounds. The bullies saw him and smirked. They had mocked him for days, and today would be no different, or so they thought. "Look, the little human returns," one sneered, shoving another to laugh louder. Another boy pointed at him. "Maybe we should strike him again, maybe he will cry like yesterday." Their cruel laughter filled the air. The human boy stopped in the center of the playground, his fists clenched, his eyes low. He whispered under his breath, "Do not awaken." "Not now." But the ancients whispered back, "They strike because they believe you are nothing. They strike because they do not know the fire. Every blow brings us closer. Every insult weakens the seal." The bullies did not wait. One rushed forward, shoving the boy hard in the chest. He stumbled backward, falling to the ground. Dust rose around him. The others laughed, kicking at his arms, his legs, his side. Pain spread through his body, but something else stirred too. Heat. A burning heat deep in his chest. He tried to push it down, to keep it locked away, but every strike pushed it higher, hotter, until the seal inside him cracked. A final kick struck his face, his lip burst again, and his blood touched the ground. The dust around him shimmered, the air shook. A low hum spread across the yard, so soft at first no one noticed. Then the ground trembled, the hum turned to a roar. The bullies stepped back, fear flashing in their eyes. What is happening?" One stammered. The human boy pushed himself up slowly, his small frame shaking, his head low. But when he raised his eyes, they glowed like molten fire. The children gasped. Even the laughter stopped. Lines of light ran across his arms and chest, glowing like rivers of flame beneath his skin. The ground cracked beneath his feet, small sparks rising into the air. Lyra stood frozen, her heart pounding. She had feared this moment. But now it was real, she whispered. "The forbidden power. It's awakening." Her grandfather's words rang in her ears. "The day a human awakens, the stars themselves will tremble." The boy opened his mouth, but it was not his voice that spoke. It was layered, deep, ancient, like 1,000 voices together. "You struck us for fun," the voice said, echoing across the playground. "You mocked the child of Earth, and now the seal is broken." The bullies screamed and stumbled back. One fell to the ground, trembling. Teachers rushed into the yard, shouting commands. But the moment they stepped close, the energy struck them like a storm. Their shields flickered, their weapons failed. The human boy stood in the center, glowing brighter, the heat bending the air around him. Inside, the boy screamed silently. He did not want this. He wanted to stop, to close his eyes, to shut the voices away. But the ancients poured through him, unstoppable. "You cannot silence us, child. We are your blood. We are your truth." The playground shook violently, cracks spreading through the stone floor. The metallic trees bent, their leaves burning at the edges. Children screamed, running in every direction. But Lyra stayed, her legs frozen in place, her eyes locked on him. She could see his tears glowing in the firelight. Even in his fury, he was crying. He was only a child lost in something too big, too ancient, too terrible. The teachers shouted for reinforcements. Security drones flew overhead, weapons glowing. "Contain him," one shouted. "Do not let the human escape." Another yelled. But when the drones fired, the energy around the boy shattered the blast like glass. The drones fell, smoking, useless. The teachers stepped back, their fear clear. None of them had expected this. None of them had believed the old warnings about humans. And now the forbidden power stood before them, alive, awake, and burning. The boy raised his hands, fire and light spilling from his fingers. The ancient's voice roared through him. "Remember us, Galaxy. Remember the humans you tried to erase. Your cruelty has freed us again." Lyra took a step forward. Tears in her glowing eyes, she whispered, "Please, stop. You are not a monster." Her voice trembled but carried across the chaos. For a moment, the boy's eyes flickered. The glow dimming, her words reached the human part of him. The child still trapped inside, but the ancients thundered back. "Do not listen. Weakness is a chain. Burn them all," the boy screamed, fire exploding from his chest, shaking the walls of the academy. The playground was no longer a place of games. It had become the birthplace of fear. And in that terrible light, every witness understood the truth. The forbidden power of humanity had awakened, and it would not go back to sleep. The playground was silent now. Smoke rose from cracked stone. The metallic trees burned at the edges, their leaves falling like sparks. Children huddled in corners. Too afraid to breathe, teachers stood frozen, their shields shaking in their hands, and in the center of it all, the human boy glowed with a fire not meant for children. He trembled, his small frame shaking. Tears ran down his face, glowing like drops of light. He whispered to himself, "Stop! Please stop." But the ancients inside him roared. "You cannot stop, child of Earth, the seal is broken. The fire is awake." One teacher stepped forward, his voice trembling. "Contain him. Before it spreads," but before the guards could act, the boy's heartbeat thundered like a drum. The ground shook with every pulse. Windows shattered, walls cracked. Fear spread faster than fire. The bullies who once mocked him now crawled backward on their knees, their faces pale, their voices broken. "Please, we didn't mean it," one cried. Another stammered, "We were only playing. Forgive us," but the boy's glowing eyes fixed on them. For a moment, the ancient spoke through him again. "You struck him for fun, you broke him for laughter. Now feel the weight of your cruelty." The bullies sobbed. Covering their faces, they no longer saw a weak human child. They saw a storm in human form. Lyra stood frozen at the edge of the chaos. Her silver skin shone in the burning light. Her heart pounded so loudly she thought it might break her chest. Yet she did not run, she whispered. "He is crying. He doesn't want this." Her eyes met his. And for a second she saw the child behind the fire. Not a monster, not a weapon, but a boy lost in pain. The academy alarms rang. Deep sirens echoing across the towers. Security drones filled the skies. Heavy footsteps of soldiers thundered through the halls. The academy's calm was broken. Fear had spread from a single playground to the entire campus. Whispers traveled faster than truth. Human power has awakened. A forbidden force has returned. Destroy him before he destroys us. The boy fell to his knees, his hands gripping the ground. Energy still spilled from his body, but his face was pale, his breath shallow. The ancients whispered, "Do not fall, child, you must rise. You must burn." But his own voice fought back. "No, I don't want this. I don't want to hurt them." The struggle shook him from the inside, tearing him between innocence and fury. The soldiers arrived, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. They aimed at the boy, their leader shouting, but target locked. Neutralize the threat. But when the first shot fired, it never reached him. The blast broke apart in the air, dissolving into sparks. The boy's power bent reality around him. The soldiers stumbled back, their training useless against something they did not understand. Children screamed and fled. Teachers dragged them into halls, away from the fire, but even in hiding, the whispers spread. The human is dangerous. The humans cannot be trusted. They must all be destroyed. Fear twisted every word, turning one child's awakening into a threat against the galaxy itself. Lyra clenched her fists, her fear battling her courage. She took one step forward, then another. The guards shouted at her, "Stay back!" But she did not stop. Her voice trembled but carried through the smoke. "Please, listen to me," she said to the boy. "You are not alone. You are not a monster." The boy's glowing eyes flickered, the fire dimming for a heartbeat. Her words reached him, pulling at the small part of him still human, still afraid. But the ancients roared again. "Do not listen. Weakness will bind you. Burn them all." "Child of Earth!" the boy screamed, a wave of energy blasting outward. Soldiers were thrown into walls, drones exploded in the air. The academy floor cracked deeper, fire spreading like veins. Yet even in his fury, his tears kept falling. It was not the scream of anger alone. It was the scream of a child drowning in something he could not control. In the command tower, the academy leaders watched in horror. They sent urgent messages to the Galactic Council. "The forbidden has awakened. The human power is real. What shall we do?" And across the galaxy, powerful voices trembled. Some demanded extermination, some demanded capture, and some whispered in fear. If one child can do this, what happens if all humans awaken? On the playground floor, Lyra knelt close enough to feel the heat. Her eyes filled with tears, she whispered again, softer this time. "You are not what they fear. You are more." The boy looked at her, his face streaked with glowing tears. For one fragile moment, the fire inside him slowed. The ancients hissed with anger, but his heart beat louder than their whispers. The soldiers, bruised and broken, regrouped behind shields. They feared him, but they also feared their commanders. The order was clear: contain or kill. The boy swayed on his knees, the fire dimming then flaring again. His power was wild, unstable, and everyone knew one truth now. The Academy was no longer safe. The galaxy would never see humans as weak again. Fear had spread. Fear that would not stop at the walls of the Academy. Fear that would soon touch every world in the stars. The Academy yard was no longer a playground. It was a battlefield. Smoke rose in twisting streams. Walls cracked and trembled. The ground burned with strange light. Children were gone, teachers hidden, soldiers gathered in fear. And at the center knelt the human boy, glowing like a dying star. His chest heaved, every breath a struggle. The power inside him pulsed like a second heartbeat, sometimes dim, sometimes blazing bright. The ancients whispered endlessly, their voices layered, deep, unstoppable. "Rise, child of Earth, rise and show them the fire." The soldiers raised their weapons again. Though their hands shook, "Do not let him stand," their leader shouted. "He is unstable, he is dangerous, strike now." Energy beams shot forward, brilliant and deadly, but the boy's power flared. The blast shattered midair. Scattering into sparks, the soldiers stumbled back. Their armor scorched by heat they could not block. The boy screamed, clutching his head, "I don't want this." But the ancients roared louder, "You are not wanting, you are being. You are fire given flesh." His body shook, his tears mixed with glowing light. And then the ground split beneath him, cracks spreading in every direction. A wave of energy burst outward, throwing soldiers through the air like leaves in a storm. The Academy towers trembled, windows burst, alarms wailed. Every witness froze in terror. This was no accident, no trick of light. This was power, the forbidden kind, the kind the galaxy had tried to erase. And it had returned in the body of a child. Lyra shielded her face as the blast rushed past her. Her silver skin burned with heat. But she did not run, she crawled closer. Her voice weak but steady. "You are not alone. Please listen to me." The boy's glowing eyes flickered, hearing her even through the thunder. But the ancients drowned her voice. "They struck you for fun. They will strike you again. Burn them all." The soldiers regrouped, their commander bleeding from his forehead. "Call reinforcements," he shouted, his voice broken with fear. "We need containment units. We need full lockdown." But even as he spoke, the boy stood small and trembling, yet terrifying. He raised his hand without meaning to, and a nearby drone melted in midair. The smell of burning metal filled the yard. The soldiers screamed, their fear turning into desperation. One soldier whispered, "He's not a boy anymore." "He's a weapon," another muttered. "No, he's something worse." They aimed again, but hesitation froze their fingers. They had seen what happened to those who tried. And deep inside, they knew their weapons were useless. The boy's power gathered, swirling like a storm of fire and lightning. His voice mixed with the ancients, echoing across the Academy. "For centuries, you laughed at humans," the voice thundered. "You called us weak, you called us nothing. Today, you will remember why you feared us." The first strike came like the roar of a dying sun. The boy unleashed a shockwave that tore through the walls of the Academy. Metal bent, stone shattered, banners burned. The soldiers were thrown to the ground, their armor broken, their screams lost in the fire. The entire campus shook as if the world itself feared him. Far above, ships orbiting the colony felt the tremor. Sensors screamed with warnings. Unstable energy surge detected, unknown source, human origin. Panic spread to every corner of the system. The boy collapsed to his knees again, trembling, gasping for air. He had not wanted to strike, but the power had used him. The ancients whispered with satisfaction, "This is only the beginning, child. The galaxy will kneel or burn." Lyra crawled closer, ignoring the smoke and broken glass. She reached out her hand, her eyes filled with tears. "You are not a monster. Please fight them, fight the voices." For a moment, the boy looked at her, really looked. His glowing eyes softened, his tears fell heavier, and for a heartbeat the fire dimmed. The human child's voice broke through the storm. "I don't want to hurt anyone." But the galaxy did not hear his words. They only saw the destruction. They only saw soldiers broken, drones melted, walls collapsed. They saw not a child in pain, but the first strike of a forbidden force, and fear became truth. The Academy leaders sent urgent transmissions across the stars. The human weapon has awakened. The threat is real. Containment failed. The Galactic Council received the messages with dread. Some shouted for extermination. Some whispered of war, and others trembled in silence, knowing the balance of the galaxy had just shifted. In the ruined yard, smoke still rising. The boy lay on the ground, Lyra sat beside him, her small hand on his arm. He was still glowing faintly, his breath shallow, but he was still a child. His face wet with tears, she whispered, "They will come for you now. They will never let you live." The boy closed his eyes. He whispered back, his voice broken, "Then let them come. I am already broken." And in that moment, the galaxy realized the truth. Humanity's forbidden power had struck once more, and nothing could erase it. The academy lay in ruins. Walls broken, floors cracked, banners burned into ash. The once bright playground was now a scar of fire and smoke, and in the middle of it, the human boy sat weak and trembling. His glow fading but not gone, Lyra stayed at his side. Her silver skin dusted with ash, her glowing eyes wet with tears. She had not run like the others. She had not called him monster. She had seen the child behind the fire, and because of that, she knew what would come next. The academy leaders stood at the edges, whispering in fear, their voices filled with panic, their minds racing with one thought: this cannot be hidden. The soldiers who survived limped away, their armor scorched, their pride broken. Some looked back with terror, others with hatred, but all of them carried the same truth. They had faced a human child, and they had lost. Messages shot through the stars faster than light, carried on secure channels, shouted in fear. The forbidden has awakened. A human weapon lives. Containment failed. And those words reached the ears of the Galactic Council. In the grand chamber of the council, leaders of 100 races gathered. Their voices clashed like thunder. "Exterminate them before it spreads," shouted one. "Capture the boy, study him, control the power," demanded another. But others trembled and stayed silent. They remembered history, the stories buried in secret texts, the wars humans once fought, the empires they had shattered. The day when galaxies had burned with human fire, no one wanted to believe those stories. But now they had proof. The fear was alive again. Back on the colony world, the boy opened his eyes slowly. He saw the broken playground, the shattered walls, the soldiers watching him from afar. He felt the whispers of the ancients inside him. "They fear you, child of Earth, and they should. For fear is power." He shook his head, his voice weak. "I don't want their fear. I only want peace," but the ancients laughed. "A cruel and endless sound. Peace is a lie they fed you, child." Their laughter was never peace, it was chains. Lyra held his arm, her small hand steady despite her fear. "You are not chains. You are not fire alone," she whispered. "You are more than what they say." The boy looked at her, and for the first time since the awakening, he felt seen. Not as a weapon, not as a monster, but as a child. Ships began to descend from the skies, their shadows covering the ruins. The council had sent enforcers, elite forces trained for impossible threats. Their ships hovered like predators, their weapons glowing. The academy children watched from hiding, their whispers sharp with terror. "They will kill him," one said. "They must," another replied. But deep inside, some felt doubt. They had seen his tears, his fear, his humanity. And doubt is stronger than silence. The boy stood, though his legs trembled. His glow flared once more, weaker than before, but still dangerous. The soldiers shouted through speakers, "Human child, surrender, or we will end you here." The ancients whispered in his ear, "Show them fire, remind them of Earth. Let them kneel." But Lyra's voice cut through the storm, "Please, don't let them turn you into what they fear." For a heartbeat, silence filled the ruins. The boy's eyes shifted between fire and tears. The enforcers tightened their grip on weapons. Ready to strike, the council watched from afar, waiting for the decision that would shape the future. Then the boy spoke, his voice broken but strong enough to carry. "They struck me for fun," he said. The words echoed across the yard, heavy, sharp, unforgettable. "They laughed at me, they mocked me because I was human." He lifted his hand, glowing lines burning faintly across his skin. "But when they struck me, they awakened what they could never control." His eyes burned brighter, his voice filled with both sorrow and fury. "Remember this, galaxy. Humanity is not gone, humanity is not weak. Humanity will never bow again." The soldiers hesitated, their weapons shaking in their hands. The message traveled faster than light, carried by recordings, carried by whispers across colonies, across worlds, across fleets. The galaxy heard it, the message of a child, the message of forbidden power, the message that would not be forgotten. The ancients laughed with triumph, but inside that laughter, the boy's own voice still lived. Torn, broken, but alive, he whispered only to Lyra, too quiet for anyone else. I don't want to be what they fear. Lyra squeezed his hand, her tears glowing in the firelight. Then be what they need, she said. Her words sank deep into him, deeper than the whispers of the ancients. Above them, the ships hovered, weapons ready, commanders shouting orders, but none dared to fire, for they had already lost something more powerful than the fight. They had lost the illusion of control. Fear had spread, yes, but so had doubt, and doubt can burn empires. The boy stood tall despite his trembling. His glow burned against the sky, and in that moment, the galaxy understood the truth. The forbidden power was not a legend, it was alive, it had spoken. And it carried the face of a human child. The message had been delivered. The galaxy would never strike humanity for fun again, because now they knew the price.